She felt too fat to be loved, but the billionaire saw his forever in her. Mildred Sanchez had perfected the art of taking up less space. Not physically, that ship had sailed years ago, along with her marriage, her confidence, and the version of herself that used to believe she deserved good things. But emotionally, socially, romantically, she'd learned to shrink, to fade, to exist in the margins of her own life. At 35, she'd made peace with it, or so she told herself every morning while avoiding the full-length mirror in her bedroom. My beautiful family, welcome to Romance and Love Stories. Here, we don't just tell stories, we breathe life into the kind of love that finds you when you least expect it, the kind that changes everything, the kind that reminds you why the heart never gives up. If this is your first time here, go ahead and subscribe and turn on your notifications, because every story we share carries a message meant for someone. And if you've been with us before, thank you. Truly. Your support keeps this community growing. Settle in, stay with us till the very end. Drop a comment so we know how you feel, and don't forget to like this video. Now let's dive deep. The kitchen of Millie's Morning Light, her small bakery in downtown Charlottesville, smelled like cinnamon and hope. Funny how she could create sweetness for everyone else, while her own life tasted like day-old bread. The pre-dawn darkness outside her windows felt appropriate. She did her best work when no one was watching. Her hands moved through familiar motions, folding butter into croissant dough, the rhythm meditative. This was where she felt safe, capable, worthy. Flour didn't judge. Yeast didn't care about the size of her thighs or the softness of her belly. Sugar didn't whisper behind her back like her ex-husband's family had. You're here early. Again. Elena's voice cut through the quiet. Her younger sister pushed through the back door, bringing cold March air and concern. Millie, it's 4 in the morning. Croissants wait for no one. Mildred didn't look up. Eye contact invited questions she didn't want to answer. You're avoiding the apartment. Not a question. Elena knew her too well. 32 years old and annoyingly perceptive. It's been 4 years since the divorce. When are you going to stop punishing yourself? I'm not. You work 16-hour days. You live in a studio apartment with furniture from thrift stores, even though this place is finally profitable. You haven't been on a date since... I'm focused on the business. The dough tore under her hands. Too much pressure. She started over. Gentler this time. Everything in her life required a gentle touch now, especially herself. Elena sighed. That particular sound that meant, I love you, but you're being stubborn. Ma wouldn't want this for you. The mention of their mother landed like it always did, sharp and sweet at the same time. 6 years gone, but some mornings Mildred still reached for her phone to call her before remembering. Breast cancer had taken a lot of things. It had taken the one person who'd always made Mildred feel beautiful exactly as she was. Ma also said to protect your heart. Mildred's voice came out smaller than intended. I'm just taking her advice. She meant protect it from people who don't deserve it, not from everyone. Elena moved closer, flour dusting onto her scrubs. Night shift at the hospital, stopping by before heading home. Not from yourself. Before Mildred could respond, the bell above the front door chimed. They both froze. The bakery didn't open for another 3 hours. Did you lock up last night? Elena whispered. Mildred's heart kicked against her ribs as she wiped her hands on her apron and moved toward the front. Through the archway, she could see a figure silhouetted against the street lamps outside. Tall, broad shoulders, definitely male. We're closed, she called out, proud when her voice didn't shake. She'd learned to sound braver than she felt. I know, I'm sorry. The voice was deep, rough around the edges like he'd been up all night. I saw the lights. I really need coffee. Please, I'll pay whatever you want. He stepped into the light from her display cases, and Mildred's breath caught. Handsome didn't cover it. He looked like money, the kind of effortless wealth that came with perfectly tailored clothes, even at 4 in the morning, dark hair slightly messed like he'd been running his hands through it, eyes that looked simultaneously exhausted and electric. But it was the vulnerability in his expression that stopped her from immediately refusing. He looked lost. The coffee maker won't be ready for another hour. She should send him away, should maintain her boundaries, I'll wait. He said it so quietly, so desperately that Mildred found herself nodding before her brain caught up. "Okay, but you'll have to wait in here. I can't leave the front unlocked." "Thank you." The relief in his voice seemed disproportionate to coffee, even really good coffee. Elena raised her eyebrows behind the man's back, mouthing, "Who is that?" Mildred shook her head slightly. "No idea." "I'm Derek." He extended his hand, and when Mildred took it, his palm was warm, his grip firm but not aggressive. Derek Roberts. Something about the name tickled her memory, but she couldn't place it. Mildred. Millie. "The owner?" He glanced around the small bakery like he was seeing something meaningful. "This place. My mother used to talk about opening a bakery. Before." He didn't finish. Didn't need to. Mildred understood unfinished sentences. Her life was full of them. Elena cleared her throat. "I should head home. Early shift tonight." She squeezed Mildred's shoulder on her way out, whispering, "Text me everything." And then it was just the two of them. Mildred and this stranger who'd walked into her sanctuary asking for coffee like it was salvation. "I'll just," Mildred gestured vaguely toward the kitchen. "Work. You can sit anywhere." She retreated to her dough, hyper-aware of him settling into one of the mismatched chairs she'd bought at estate sales. She could feel his presence like heat from an oven, could sense him watching her through the archway. Her hands trembled slightly as she shaped croissants. She was used to being invisible. This feeling of being seen was terrifying. "Can I ask you something?" His voice carried from the front. "Do you always start this early?" "Yes." She focused on getting the folds exactly right. "That's dedication. That's survival." The words slipped out before she could stop them. Too honest, too raw. Silence stretched between them, but it didn't feel uncomfortable. It felt full, like there were 1,000 things being said in the quiet. 30 minutes passed. Mildred loaded croissants into the oven, started prep on muffin batter, checked her rising bread dough. Normal things, grounding things. But her awareness of him never dimmed. "I lied." His voice again, closer now. She turned to find him standing in the kitchen doorway. "I don't really need coffee." Her stomach dropped. "Here it comes. Whatever con this was. Whatever." "I was driving." He looked at his hands like they belonged to someone else. "Been driving for hours. I couldn't go home, couldn't face the empty house. Saw your lights and thought, I don't know what I thought, that maybe if I stopped moving, I'd have to feel everything I've been running from." Mildred understood that too. She'd spent 4 years running in place. "My father died 5 years ago." Derek's voice cracked on the word died. "Stroke. 1 minute we're arguing about quarterly reports, the next he's gone. Today's his birthday. Would have been 62. I'm sorry." Inadequate words, but Mildred meant them with everything she had. "My mother. It'll be 6 years in August. Cancer." Their eyes met, and something passed between them. Recognition. The kind that happens when one broken person sees the cracks in another and thinks, "Oh, you too." "This is going to sound crazy," Derek said, "but can I just stay? I'll stay quiet. I won't bother you. I just don't want to be alone with my thoughts right now." Every self-protection instinct Mildred had spent 4 years building screamed at her to say no, to protect herself, to maintain her carefully constructed walls. But there was something in his eyes, something that mirrored the ache she carried. And maybe it was the early hour, or the memory of her mother, or the way grief made everything feel both more fragile and more real. But she found herself nodding. "Okay, but if you're staying, you're working. I've got 3 dozen muffins to make." The smile that broke across his face was like sunrise. Deal. They worked in companionable silence, Derek following her instructions with surprising competence. His hands were careful with the ingredients, respectful of her space. He didn't ask invasive questions, didn't fill the quiet with meaningless chatter, just existed alongside her. It was the most peaceful Mildred had felt in years. By the time dawn started painting the sky outside her windows, they'd produced 3 dozen blueberry muffins, 2 dozen chocolate chip, and something that felt dangerous and delicate between them. "I should go." Derek glanced at the lightning sky like it was an enemy. "Let you actually open your business." "The coffee's ready now." Mildred poured 2 cups, her hands steadier than they'd been in hours. "If you still want it." "I do." He accepted the mug, their fingers brushing. Neither pulled away immediately. "Thank you for letting a stranger fall apart in your kitchen." "You didn't fall apart." Mildred wrapped both hands around her own mug, needing something to hold on to. "You just paused." "Is that what you do here? Every morning at 4 a.m. Pause?" She wanted to lie, to deflect, to do what she'd been doing for 4 years, make herself smaller, less complicated, less real. But something about this man, this moment, demanded truth. "I hide here," she admitted. "The world is easier when it's just me and the bread." "I understand that." Derek's eyes held hers. "I've built a whole empire on hiding." "Empire?" The word jarred her back to reality. "What do you do?" "I'm in tech, software development mostly. Some investments." He said it casually, but Mildred's mind was racing. Roberts, Derek Roberts. Where had she? Wait, Roberts Tech Solutions? The pieces clicked. She'd read about them, about him. The billionaire who'd revolutionized data security, the Forbes articles, the wealth beyond imagining. And he was standing in her tiny bakery, flour on his expensive shirt, looking at her like she was the most interesting thing he'd encountered in years. "That's me." He set down his mug. "Does that change things?" Did it? Mildred looked at this man who'd spent the night making muffins to outrun his grief, who'd been gentle with her ingredients and her space, who'd seen her at her most unguarded and hadn't run. "No," she said, and meant it. "But it does make me wonder why you're really here." "Honestly?" Derek stepped closer. Not invasive, just present. "I have no idea, but standing here, talking to you, is the first time in 5 years I've felt like I could breathe." Mildred's heart was doing complicated things in her chest, things she'd forbidden it from doing, things that felt like hope, and that was the most dangerous thing of all. "I need to open." She forced herself to step back, to rebuild the walls. "And you probably have whatever billionaires do on Monday mornings." "Can I come back?" The question was soft, vulnerable. "Tomorrow morning, I make a mean banana bread." "Say no. Protect yourself." This is how it starts, the hoping, the believing, the inevitable disappointment when he sees you clearly and realizes you're not worth the trouble. Her ex-husband's words echoed in her head. "You've let yourself go, Mildred. How can I be attracted to someone who doesn't even try?" But Derek was looking at her like she was already whole, already enough, already exactly what he'd been searching for. "Tomorrow's my day off," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Wednesday, then?" The smart answer was no. The safe answer was no. The answer that would protect her battered heart was absolutely, definitely no. "Wednesday," Mildred agreed. 4 a.m. "Don't be late." His smile could have lit the whole bakery. "I wouldn't dream of it." After he left, Mildred stood in her kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of their strange night together, muffins cooling on racks, 2 empty coffee mugs, the lingering scent of his cologne mixing with cinnamon and sugar. Elena was going to lose her mind. But more terrifying than her sister's reaction was the tiny, fragile flame of hope flickering in Mildred's chest. The dangerous thought that maybe, just maybe, someone could see all of her, the softness, the scars, the weight she carried, both physical and emotional, and stay anyway. She touched her lips, imagining what it might feel like to be kissed by someone who looked at her the way Derek had. Like she was beautiful, like she was worth driving all night to find. Then she caught her reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator, and reality crashed back. Women who looked like her didn't get men like him. Not in real life. Not for keeps. Wednesday would probably prove that. But for now, for just this moment, Mildred let herself hope. It was terrifying. It was exhilarating. It was the first time in 4 years she'd felt truly alive. Mildred didn't sleep Tuesday night. She told herself it was because she needed to prep extra inventory. Told herself the restlessness had nothing to do with the fact that in approximately 6 hours, Derek Roberts might walk back through her door. Might being the operative word. Men like him didn't show up for women like her. Not twice. The first time had been grief and desperation. Wednesday morning would bring clarity, daylight, common sense, and the inevitable realization that a billionaire tech mogul had better things to do than make muffins at 4 in the morning. Elena had called 17 times since Monday. Mildred had answered exactly once. "So let me get this straight," her sister had said, voice tight with concern and curiosity. "Derek Roberts The Derek Roberts spent 3 hours in your kitchen making baked goods, and you're acting like this is normal. It's not normal. I don't know what it is. It's a miracle, Millie, and you're going to self-sabotage it because you're terrified. I'm being realistic. You're being a coward. The words had stung because they were true. Mildred had spent 4 years perfecting cowardice, disguising it as self-protection. Same thing, really. Different words for the same fear. Now, at 3:45 on Wednesday morning, she stood in her bakery kitchen, in her nicest apron, the one without permanent stains, and waited. Her hands shook as she measured flour. Her heart performed gymnastics every time a car passed outside. 3:55. He wasn't coming. Of course he wasn't. She'd been foolish to hope, foolish to wear mascara at 4 in the morning, foolish to... The bell chimed. Mildred's breath caught. Through the archway, she saw him, Derek, backlit by street lamps, holding 2 coffee cups from the expensive place 3 blocks over and a bag that smelled like fresh bagels. He'd come back. "I know you said you'd have coffee," he said, stepping inside, "but I thought maybe you'd want the fancy stuff, as a thank you. For Monday." He looked different in the pre-dawn light. Still wealthy, his clothes probably cost more than her monthly rent, but softer somehow, nervous, like he'd been as uncertain about this morning as she was. "You came." The words fell out of Mildred's mouth before she could stop them. Derek's expression shifted, something that looked like hurt flickering across his features. "You thought I wouldn't." "I thought." What could she say? That men didn't keep promises to her, that disappointment was safer than hope, that she'd learn not to expect good things? "I don't know what I thought." He set the coffee and bagels on her work counter, movements careful. "Can I be honest?" Mildred nodded, not trusting her voice. "I almost didn't come." Derek ran a hand through his hair, messing it up in a way that shouldn't be attractive but absolutely was. "Spent all day yesterday convincing myself this was crazy. That I was projecting. That Monday was just grief and timing, and I shouldn't read anything into it." "Oh." Disappointment flooded through her, cold and familiar. "But then I realized something." He stepped closer. "I haven't stopped thinking about you, about the way you move in this kitchen like you're conducting an orchestra. The way you understood without me having to explain. The way being near you felt like coming home." Mildred's heart was going to break through her ribs. This wasn't happening. Men didn't say things like this to her, especially not men who looked like him, who had everything, who could have anyone. "I don't understand." Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "Why?" "Why what?" "Why me?" The question hung between them, loaded with every insecurity she carried. "You're, you, and I'm." She gestured at herself, at her body, at the proof of her unworthiness that she carried like evidence. Derek's expression transformed into something fierce. "You're what? Beautiful? Kind? Talented? The first person in 5 years who made me feel like I might survive my own grief. I'm fat." The word tasted like poison. "I'm not. I don't look like the women you probably date. I saw the Forbes article. I saw the pictures of you at galas with models, and those women were decorations." Derek's voice was rough. "Beautiful, sure, but I couldn't have told you what any of them dreamed about, what scared them, what made them laugh at 4 in the morning while elbow deep in muffin batter." Mildred wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly it physically hurt. "My ex-husband said..." "Your ex-husband was an idiot." Derek moved closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne mixed with coffee. "And I'm going to spend as long as it takes proving to you that whatever he said was a lie. You don't even know me." "Then let me." The request was soft, vulnerable. "Let me know you. Let me show up here every Wednesday, or every day. Whatever you'll give me. I need to be near you." "Is that crazy?" "Yes, absolutely yes." This whole thing was insane. But Mildred found herself shaking her head. "No, because I feel it too. And that's what terrifies me. What if we're terrified together?" Derek's smile was tentative, hopeful. "What if we just try? No expectations, no pressure. Just 2 people who make really good muffins, seeing where this goes." Before Mildred could answer, her phone buzzed. She glanced at it reflexively, her supplier. The text made her stomach drop. "Problem?" Derek asked. "My flour delivery. The supplier can't make it until Friday." I've got orders for 3 dozen custom cakes this week, and I'm going to run out by tomorrow. She did quick mental math, calculating costs and consequences. There's another supplier 2 hours away. I'll have to close today, drive out there, hope they have enough inventory. The financial hit would hurt. Closing for a day meant lost revenue. The emergency supply would cost triple her normal rate. She'd survive, but barely. What if you didn't close? Derek pulled out his phone. I know a distributor. Commercial scale. They supply restaurants across Virginia. I could have everything you need here in 3 hours. Mildred's pride reared up, automatic. This was where she was supposed to refuse, supposed to insist she could handle it herself, supposed to. But she thought about Elena's words, about being a coward, about the difference between self-protection and self-sabotage. That would help. The words felt foreign in her mouth. Thank you. I'll pay you back as soon as... It's a gift. Derek was already typing. Not a loan, not an investment. Just let me do this, please. That's too much. I can't. Mildred. He looked up from his phone. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. Money my father and I built together that now just sits in accounts making more money because I don't know what else to do with it. Let me use it for something that matters. Let me help someone who actually creates beauty in the world instead of just code and contracts. There was something in his voice, something broken and yearning that Mildred recognized because she heard it in her own mirror every morning. Okay, she whispered. Thank you. His smile was worth every moment of discomfort. Done. They'll call you within the hour to confirm varieties and delivery time. Just like that? Just like that. He pocketed his phone. Now, you promised to teach me banana bread. I brought bananas. He had. Perfectly ripe ones, the kind that cost extra at the fancy grocery store. Of course he had. They fell into the rhythm they'd discovered Monday. Derek, following her instructions, asking questions that showed he was actually listening, moving through her kitchen with a respect for her space that felt like tenderness. He didn't crowd her, didn't treat her like she was fragile. Just existed alongside her, steady and present. Can I ask you something? Mildred said, watching him measure vanilla extract with surprising precision. Why baking? Of all the things you could do, why show up here? Derek was quiet for a moment, focused on folding ingredients together. My mom, before my father built the company, before the money, she used to bake. Said it was the only time her hands felt useful instead of just restless. She had dreams of opening a place like this. What stopped her? Life, my father's ambition, then his success, then the expectations that came with wealth. He set down the spatula. By the time they could afford anything she wanted, she'd forgotten what wanting felt like. She exists now, beautifully, expensively, emptily. That's heartbreaking. It's why I understood Monday. When you said you hide here, I've watched my mother hide in country clubs and charity galas for 30 years. At least your hiding creates something. Mildred's chest ached for him, for his mother, for all the ways people could lose themselves. Is that what you do? She asked softly. Hide in your empire? I did. Derek met her eyes. For 5 years I've hidden in board meetings and acquisitions and numbers that don't feel anything. And then I walked into your bakery and remembered what it felt like to be real. The timer chimed bread ready, but neither of them moved. I'm scared, Mildred admitted. Of this, of you, of what happens when you realize I'm not special enough to keep showing up for. What happens when you realize I'm not worth the risk? Derek countered. That I'm just a broken man who builds walls out of money because he doesn't know how else to keep people at a safe distance. Then we'd both be wrong about each other. Or we'd both be exactly right. He reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers barely grazed her cheek, but Mildred felt it everywhere. What if we're both more than our worst fears about ourselves? Mildred's breath shuddered out. That's a big what if. Start small then. Have coffee with me. Real coffee, not bakery coffee. Somewhere with terrible chairs and mediocre pastries so you can critique everything. Is that a date? That's me hoping you'll say yes to a date. 4 years. 4 years since anyone had asked her on a date. 4 years since she'd felt desirable or wanted or like anything other than the woman her ex-husband had convinced her she was too much and not enough all at once. Say yes, Elena's voice in her head. Be brave for once. Yes, Mildred heard herself say, but only if you promise the pastries really are mediocre. I have a reputation to protect. Derek's laugh was surprised and genuine, the sound filling her kitchen like music. Deal. Friday. I know a place with the worst croissants in Virginia. It's a date. They finished the banana bread together, the silence comfortable now, charged with possibility instead of fear. When it came out of the oven, golden and perfect, Derek insisted on taking a photo. For proof, he said, that I actually contributed something to society this week besides shareholder value. The distributor called at 6:30. By 7, when Mildred's first customers arrived, she had enough flour to supply a small restaurant. Derek had quietly excused himself before the morning rush, pressing a piece of paper into her hand on his way out. After the crowd cleared, she unfolded it. Thank you for letting me be real for a few hours. See you Friday, D. Below it, his phone number. Elena showed up at noon, bursting through the door with wild eyes. Okay, spill. Everything. Why is there enough flour in your storage room to supply the entire state? Mildred couldn't stop the smile. I have a date on Friday. With him? With Derek Roberts? With Derek. Just Derek. Elena grabbed her hands. Millie, this is huge. Are you freaking out? You're freaking out. I can see you freaking out. I'm terrified. Mildred squeezed her sister's fingers. I'm so scared I could throw up. But Elena, when he looks at me, I feel beautiful. You are beautiful. I know you think that, but he makes me almost believe it. Elena pulled her into a fierce hug. Mama would be so proud of you right now. The mention of their mother brought tears. You think? I know. She always said you were brave. You just forgot for a while. Elena pulled back, holding Mildred's face between her hands. Don't forget again, okay? Don't let fear win. That night, alone in her studio apartment, Mildred did something she hadn't done in 4 years. She stood in front of her full-length mirror and really looked. Not at her flaws, not at the evidence of her unworthiness. Just looked, and tried to see what Derek saw, what her mother had always seen, what Elena insisted was there. A woman, soft and strong, scared and brave, worthy of love not despite her body but because of everything. She was heart and hands and hope all tangled together. It was the hardest thing she'd done in years, but for the first time, she didn't look away. Friday arrived wrapped in spring rain and Mildred's spiraling anxiety. She'd changed clothes 4 times. 4. Like a teenager preparing for prom instead of a 35-year-old woman meeting someone for coffee. But nothing looked right. Everything clung wrong or billowed wrong or screamed, trying too hard or whispered. Gave up entirely. Elena had finally intervened via video call, watching Mildred's fashion meltdown from her hospital break room. The blue dress, her sister said firmly. The one that makes your eyes look gorgeous. And Millie? He's already seen you in flour, covered aprons at 4 in the morning. Whatever you wear, he's going to think you're beautiful. What if this is a mistake? Mildred stared at her reflection, seeing every flaw magnified. What if I get there and he's realized? Stop, we're not doing this. Elena's voice carried that specific mix of love and exasperation only sisters could master. You're going. You're wearing the blue dress. And you're going to let yourself be happy for 5 minutes without catastrophizing. Now, standing outside the daily grind, a coffee shop that had definitely seen better days, Mildred wondered if catastrophizing might have been the smarter choice. Through the rain-streaked window, she could see Derek already seated at a corner table. He looked up, caught her eye, and smiled. That smile, the one that made her forget every cruel word her ex-husband had ever said. She pushed through the door, bell chiming, suddenly aware of every eye in the room turning toward them. Toward her. The fat woman meeting the man who looked like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Stop it, Elena's voice in her head. You're allowed to take up space. You came, Derek stood, and there was genuine relief in his voice, like he'd been as uncertain as she was. You thought I wouldn't? His smile turned rueful. Turnabout's fair play. He pulled out her chair, an old-fashioned gesture that made her heart do complicated things. Once she was seated, he slid a plate across the table. As promised, the worst croissant in Virginia. Mildred picked it up, examining it with professional scrutiny. Overbaked. Dense. Probably been sitting out since yesterday. She took a bite and immediately understood why this place stayed in business despite the pastries. The badness was almost impressive. Oh wow. She couldn't help laughing. This is spectacularly terrible. Right? Derek's eyes lit up. I've been coming here for years specifically because the coffee is amazing and the food is catastrophic. It's honest. No pretense. Most people would just go somewhere good at everything. Most people aren't trying to escape pretense. He leaned forward, elbows on the scarred wooden table. I spend my life in places where everything is perfect and nothing is real. This place feels human. Mildred understood that more than he knew. Is that why you kept coming to my bakery? Because it's real. I kept coming because you're real. His gaze held hers. Because standing in your kitchen is the only place I don't feel like I'm playing a part I don't remember auditioning for. The honesty in his voice made her chest tight. What part are you playing? The successful son, the visionary CEO, the guy who has it all together. Derek's jaw tightened. My father built Roberts Tech from nothing. Literally nothing. He was a janitor at a tech company when I was born, taught himself coding at night, worked his way up. By the time I was 10, he'd started his own firm. By 20, we were worth millions. By 30, billions. That's incredible. It's a prison. The words came out harsh. Then he softened. I'm sorry. I sound ungrateful. I know how lucky I am. I know people would kill for my problems. But Mildred, I spent my entire childhood watching my father sacrifice everything, his health, his marriage, his joy to build an empire. And then he died at 57, sitting at his desk, surrounded by contracts and quarterly reports, and I realized he never got to enjoy any of it. Mildred reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. The touch felt natural, necessary. And now you're doing the same thing. I don't know how to do anything else. His voice cracked. I'm 37 years old, and I have no idea who I am outside of the company. My father's company. His dream. His legacy that I'm supposed to carry, and I don't even know if I want to. What do you want? The question hung between them. Derek looked at their joined hands like they were a revelation. I want mornings that smell like cinnamon, he said quietly. I want to make things with my hands instead of just moving numbers around spreadsheets. I want to sit in coffee shops with terrible pastries and talk to someone who sees me instead of my bank account. He met her eyes. I want to figure out who Derek is when he's not Lawrence Roberts' son. Mildred's throat burned with unshed tears. That's the bravest thing I've ever heard someone say. It's terrifying. Brave things usually are. She squeezed his hand. For what it's worth, I like Derek. Just Derek. The man who shows up at 4 in the morning to make banana bread. That version is pretty wonderful. His smile was tremulous, grateful. Tell me about you. About Mildred who hides in bakeries and creates magic with flour. That's not a happy story. Neither is mine. Tell me anyway. So she did. She told him about her mother, Sam Martinez's wife, the woman who'd made everyone feel loved through food and fierce hugs. About watching her waste away, cancer eating her from the inside, while she insisted on teaching Mildred every recipe, every technique, like she knew time was running out. She died when I was 29, Mildred said, surprised by how steady her voice was. 6 months later, I married someone I barely knew, because I couldn't stand being alone with my grief. Trevor worked in finance, looked good on paper, seemed stable. Your ex-husband, Derek's voice was carefully neutral. He was fine at first, supportive even, but then, Mildred pulled her hand back, needing the distance. I gained weight after Mama died. Comfort eating, depression, grief. I went from a size 12 to a size 18 in a year, and Trevor, he couldn't handle it. He left you. Worse, he stayed. The bitterness surprised her. Stayed and made sure I knew every day that I was failing him, that I'd let myself go, that if I really loved him, I'd try harder to be attractive, to be less this. She gestured at herself, at her body, at the evidence she carried of her supposed unworthiness. Derek's expression transformed into something fierce and protective. Where does he live? What? Your ex-husband. Where is he? Because I'd like to have a conversation about the definition of emotional abuse. Mildred blinked, stunned. It wasn't. I mean, he never hit me or... He tortured you. Derek's voice was gentle but absolute. He took someone grieving her mother and made her believe her body was something shameful. That's abuse, Mildred. That's cruelty. Something inside her cracked. Some wall she'd built, some story she'd been telling herself. I divorced him 4 years ago, took half of nothing because I just wanted out, used the settlement to open the bakery, and I told myself I was free. But you weren't. I just traded his voice for my own. The tears came now, hot and fast. I still hear him, Derek, every time I look in a mirror, every time someone attractive talks to me, every time I think maybe I deserve something good. His voice telling me I'm not enough. Derek moved then, sliding into the booth beside her instead of across from her. He didn't touch her, didn't crowd her, just existed in her space, solid and steady. "Can I tell you what I see?" he asked softly. Mildred nodded, not trusting her voice. "I see a woman who turned her grief into something beautiful, who gets up at 4 in the morning to create joy for strangers, who let a broken man fall apart in her kitchen and didn't run, who's been hurt and is still brave enough to sit here, having coffee with me, even though I can see how scared you are." He paused. "I see someone extraordinary, and I'm so angry that anyone made you believe otherwise. I'm fat, Derek." She needed him to hear it, to acknowledge reality. "I'm not going to wake up skinny. This is my body. This is who I am." "I know." He finally reached for her hand. "And I think you're the most beautiful woman I've ever met." "You don't mean that." "Yes, I do." His voice was fierce. "I'm not attracted to some future version of you. I'm not waiting for you to change. I think you're gorgeous right now, exactly as you are, and I know you don't believe me, but I'm going to keep saying it until maybe you start to." Mildred wanted to argue, wanted to list all the reasons he was wrong, all the evidence of her unattractiveness, all the ways she didn't measure up, but he was looking at her like she hung the moon. "I don't know how to let someone see me," she whispered. "I spent 4 years making myself invisible. Then let me be patient." Derek's thumb traced circles on her palm. "Let me show up. Let me prove that I'm not going anywhere. Let me—" His phone buzzed, then again, and again. He glanced at it, and his expression shifted. "I'm sorry. It's my mother. She only calls repeatedly when— Excuse me, I need to take this." He stepped away, phone to his ear, and Mildred watched his shoulders tense, watched him run a hand through his hair in that gesture she was learning meant stress, watched him become someone else, the CEO, the dutiful son, the man carrying weight he didn't want. When he returned, his face was carefully blank. "I have to go. Family emergency. Not life-threatening, just, my mother needs me." "Of course." Mildred stood, gathering her purse, trying not to feel the disappointment. "Is everything okay?" "Define okay." His smile was brittle. "She's upset about something for the charity gala next month. Probably the flowers or the caterer or the fact that life isn't perfect. But when Patricia Roberts calls, you answer." There was something bitter in his voice, something that spoke to years of answering calls and showing up and performing the role of perfect son. "Can I see you again?" The question burst out of Mildred before she could stop it. Or was this? Is this enough? Derek pulled her close, right there in the middle of the coffee shop, his arms around her in a hug that felt like an anchor. He was warm and solid and smelled like expensive cologne and rain. "This is nowhere near enough," he said into her hair. "I want to see you tomorrow, and the day after, and every day you'll let me. I'm off Tuesdays." "Then Tuesday. Let me take you somewhere. Somewhere beautiful. Somewhere that isn't work or obligation or pretense. Just us." Mildred nodded against his chest, feeling his heartbeat against her cheek, fast and strong and real. He pulled back, cupped her face in his hands, and for one breathless moment she thought he might kiss her. But instead, he pressed his forehead to hers, a gesture somehow more intimate. "Thank you," he whispered, "for trusting me with your story." Then he was gone, leaving her standing in the coffee shop with a terrible half-eaten croissant and a heart that felt dangerously close to hope. The rain had stopped when she stepped outside. Elena called before she'd made it to her car. "How was it? Tell me everything. Did he kiss you? Are you in love? When's the wedding?" Mildred laughed, surprising herself. "It was. He's complicated, and broken, and wonderful. So you're seeing him again?" "Tuesday." Millie. Elena's voice softened. You sound different. Happy different. I'm terrified different, Mildred corrected. But yeah, maybe a little happy too. That night, she wrote in the journal her mother had given her years ago, the one she hadn't touched since the funeral. Mama, I met someone who makes me feel like maybe I'm not as broken as I thought, someone who sees me and doesn't run. I'm so scared, but I'm trying. I'm trying to be as brave as you always said I was. I think you'd like him. He needs someone to remind him that money isn't the same as living, that success isn't the same as joy, that being your father's son doesn't mean losing yourself. And maybe I need someone to remind me that I'm more than what Trevor said I was, that my body isn't an apology, that I deserve to be loved. I miss you. But today, for the first time in 6 years, I felt like maybe you'd be proud of me. Love, your Millie. She fell asleep with the journal open, dreaming of Tuesday and terrible pastries, and a man whose brokenness matched her own. Family, if you've stayed with this story until now, it clearly touched your heart. Share your thoughts below and tell me where you're watching from. And if you haven't yet, like the video and subscribe to join our romance and love stories community. Hit the hype button if this story meant something to you. It truly helps our channel grow. Let's keep going. Tuesday morning arrived, dressed in perfect spring sunshine, and Derek picked Mildred up at 9 with a picnic basket and a smile that made her forget how to breathe. Where are we going? She asked, settling into his car, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than her bakery's annual revenue. Somewhere I haven't been in 15 years. He pulled onto the highway heading west. Somewhere my father and I used to go before the company consumed everything. The Blue Ridge Mountains rose in the distance, ancient and steady, wearing their spring green like a promise. Derek drove with one hand on the wheel, the other reaching across the console to hold hers. The gesture felt natural now, necessary, like their hands had been designed to fit together. Tell me about 15 years ago, Mildred said softly, before everything changed. Derek was quiet for a moment, navigating the winding mountain roads with practiced ease. I was 22, fresh out of college with a business degree I didn't want and plans to disappoint my father spectacularly. How? I wanted to teach, high school math, maybe coach baseball, spend my life helping kids figure out who they wanted to be instead of who their parents expected. His jaw tightened. My father laughed, said I was being naive, that I had a responsibility to the empire he'd built, that teaching was noble but foolish when I could shape the world through technology. So you gave up teaching. I gave up me. Simple words, devastating truth. Joined the company. Worked my way up even though I already had a guaranteed executive position. Tried to prove I deserved to be there on merit, not just blood. And somewhere along the way, I forgot I'd ever wanted anything different. Mildred squeezed his hand. What made you remember? You. He glanced at her, eyes soft. Watching you create something beautiful every morning. Watching you build a life that matters to you, not to anyone else. It made me realize I've spent 15 years living someone else's dream. They turned onto a smaller road, trees closing in overhead like a cathedral. The air smelled like earth and new growth and possibility. This place, Derek said as they pulled into a small parking area, is called Humpback Rocks. My father used to bring me here when the pressure got too heavy. Before he decided pressure was character building and I needed to just push through. The trailhead beckoned, a gentle path winding up through the forest. Derek grabbed the picnic basket from the trunk, and they started walking. Mildred's body protested almost immediately. She wasn't built for hiking, wasn't built for outdoor adventures with handsome billionaires who probably dated women who did yoga and ran marathons. Her thighs rubbed together. Her breath came harder than it should. Sweat gathered in uncomfortable places. We can slow down, Derek said, noticing, or stop, or turn back, whatever you need. The offer was kind, but shame crawled up Mildred's spine anyway. I'm sorry, I'm not. I don't usually. Hey. He stopped walking, set down the basket, and turned to face her fully. You have nothing to apologize for. We're not racing. We're not performing. We're just existing in a beautiful place together. You probably usually date women who can hike without dying. I usually date women I can't have real conversations with. His thumb traced her jawline. I usually date women who look perfect in photos and disappear from my memory 5 minutes after they leave. I usually date women who make me feel more alone than being actually alone. So no, Mildred, I don't usually date anyone like you. You're the first real thing I've wanted in 15 years. Her breath caught. The sincerity in his voice, the way he looked at her like she was precious, it was almost too much. Okay, she whispered, but we're going slow, and there better be something really good in that basket. His laugh was pure sunshine. Only the best terrible sandwiches money can buy. They walked at Mildred's pace, stopping frequently to catch their breath or admire the view, or simply exist together. Derek pointed out birds he remembered from childhood trips. Mildred identified wildflowers her mother had taught her to recognize during their own mountain adventures. She brought us here too, Mildred said, touching a cluster of purple violets. Every spring. She'd pack terrible egg salad sandwiches and warm lemonade, and we'd hike until Elena complained loud enough that Dad gave up and carried her. Your father, Sam, you don't talk about him much. Mildred's chest tightened. We're complicated. After Mama died, he sort of shut down, moved to a cabin 2 hours away. We talk maybe once a month. He sends cards on birthdays. But it's like losing her meant he lost the ability to be present for anyone else. That must hurt. It did. It does. She'd never admitted that out loud before. But I understand it too. They were married 34 years. High school sweethearts. She was his whole world. When she died, his world ended. Elena and I we're reminders of what he lost. Derek pulled her into a hug right there on the trail, surrounded by trees and bird song, and the kind of quiet that felt holy. You deserved better than that. So did you, she said into his chest. You deserved a father who saw you as more than a business successor. We're quite a pair, aren't we? Two people shaped by parents who loved us but couldn't quite see us. They held each other until the ache in both their chests settled into something bearable. Then they kept walking. The overlook, when they finally reached it, stole Mildred's breath for entirely different reasons. The valley spread below them like a painting, green and gold and endless, mountains layering into the distance, sky so blue it hurt. Oh, she breathed. Oh, this is... Yeah, Derek was watching her instead of the view. It really is. They spread out a blanket on the smooth rocks, and Derek unpacked the basket with theatrical flair. As promised, mediocre sandwiches, turkey and Swiss from a chain restaurant. Also, overpriced chips, definitely been sitting too long fruit salad, and he pulled out a small white box from Millie's Morning Light. You didn't. I absolutely did. Stopped by at 6 this morning and bought out your lemon bars. His grin was boyish, proud. I know good baking when I taste it. And I wanted something perfect to balance out the intentional mediocrity. Mildred felt tears prick her eyes. He'd gone to her bakery, had bought her pastries to bring on their date, had thought about what would make this moment special. Thank you, she managed. For all of this, for bringing me here, for seeing me. Mildred. Derek set down the food and moved closer, his hand cupping her face. I need to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. Her heart kicked against her ribs. Okay. I'm falling for you. The words were simple, devastating, perfect. I know it's only been a week. I know that sounds crazy, but I can't stop thinking about you. Can't stop wanting to know everything about you. Can't stop imagining a future where I get to show up in your kitchen every morning and watch you create magic and just be near you. Derek, I know you're scared. I know your ex-husband did damage that's going to take time to heal. I know you don't believe you deserve this, but I'm asking you to try. To let me prove that I'm serious, that this isn't some whim or charity or fascination that'll fade. I want you, Mildred, exactly as you are, for as long as you'll have me. The tears came then, hot and fast. I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to believe someone could want me. Then let me show you. He wiped her tears with his thumbs, so gentle she could barely breathe. Every day, in every small way. Let me show up. Let me be consistent. Let me earn your trust. What if I break your heart? What if you don't? He smiled, soft and vulnerable. What if we're both brave enough to try? Mildred looked at this man, this beautiful, broken, sincere man who'd driven her into the mountains and bought her lemon bars and was looking at her like she was the view worth seeing. And she made a choice. She kissed him, It was awkward and perfect and tasted like tears and hope. Derek made a surprised sound against her mouth, then pulled her closer, his hands gentle in her hair. The kiss was sweet and searching, a question and an answer all at once. When they pulled apart, both breathing hard, Derek pressed his forehead to hers. "I've been wanting to do that since Monday," he admitted. "What took you so long?" "I was waiting for you to be ready, to feel safe enough, to know I wasn't going anywhere." Mildred kissed him again, deeper this time, letting herself feel everything she'd been afraid to want. His hands on her waist, solid and sure, the way he held her like she was precious, the small sound he made when she touched his face. They broke apart eventually, breathless and smiling, and ate terrible sandwiches and perfect lemon bars, while the mountains stood witness to something fragile and new and worth protecting. "Tell me something you've never told anyone," Derek said, feeding her a strawberry from the mediocre fruit salad. "I'm scared of my own reflection," Mildred admitted. "Not in a vain way, in a can't stand to see the evidence of my failure way. I avoid mirrors, cover them when I can, because every time I see myself, I hear Trevor telling me I'm not enough." "What if we change that?" Derek's voice was thoughtful. "What if every time you looked in a mirror, you heard my voice instead, telling you you're beautiful, telling you you're worthy, telling you that you're exactly enough? That's a nice dream." "It's not a dream. It's a practice." He pulled out his phone. "Come here." He positioned them for a selfie, the mountain vista behind them, both of them wind-blown and happy. Mildred started to protest. She hated photos, hated seeing herself, hated the evidence, but Derek was already talking. "Look at you," he said, showing her the screen. "Look at how your eyes light up. Look at that smile. Look at how absolutely stunning you are." Mildred forced herself to look. And yes, she saw the double chin, saw the way her arms looked, saw every flaw she usually focused on. But she also saw Derek looking at her with undisguised adoration, saw her own genuine happiness, saw two people who looked right together, who fit, who made sense. "I don't hate it," she whispered. "Progress." He kissed her temple. "We'll get you to, I love it, eventually." They stayed on that mountain for hours, talking and kissing and learning each other. Derek told her about the pressure of board meetings and shareholder expectations. Mildred told him about the terror of those first months in business, convinced she'd fail, convinced she wasn't enough. "What would you do?" she asked as the sun started its descent. "If you could walk away from Roberts Tech tomorrow, what would you actually want?" Derek was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then, "I'd want to teach, still. I'd want to mentor kids who think they have to follow their parents' dreams. I'd want to make things with my hands, build furniture, maybe. Bake bread in the mornings with you. Live smaller, live real. Live like my life belonged to me instead of a legacy I never asked for." That sounds beautiful. It sounds impossible. But there was longing in his voice. "I'm the CEO. I have a fiduciary responsibility. Thousands of employees depending on decisions I make. I can't just walk away." "Maybe not tomorrow," Mildred said carefully, "but maybe someday. Maybe you build toward it. Find someone to transition to. Create an exit strategy. Actually live, instead of just surviving your father's dreams. You make it sound possible. You make me believe I deserve to be loved. Fair trade." They packed up as the sky turned pink and gold, both reluctant to leave this place where they'd been nothing but themselves. On the hike down, Derek held her hand, steadying her over rough spots, never once making her feel like a burden. In the car, drowsy with sunshine and happiness, Mildred's phone buzzed. "Elena." Dad called. "He's coming to Charlottesville next week. Wants to see you. Said it's important. Love you." Mildred's stomach dropped. Sam Martinez hadn't visited in 3 years. Whatever this was, it wasn't good news. "Everything okay?" Derek asked, noticing her expression. "My father. He's coming to visit. He never visits." "You want me there, for moral support?" The offer was casual, but the implications enormous. Meeting her father. Being introduced as, what? Her boyfriend? Her person? The man she was falling in love with? "Maybe," she said. "If that's okay. If we're whatever you want us to be." Derek brought her hand to his lips. "But for what it's worth, I'd really like to be your boyfriend. Officially, if you'll have me. Mildred thought about everything that could go wrong, about all the ways this could end badly, about the risk of letting someone see her, really see her, and choosing to stay. Then she thought about lemon bars and mountain views, and the way Derek looked at her like she was the miracle. "Okay," she whispered, "boyfriend, let's try that." His smile could have lit the whole valley. They drove back to Charlottesville as the stars came out, hands linked, hearts tentatively hopeful, both of them terrified and brave and falling into something that felt like coming home. Sam Martinez arrived on a Thursday that felt like autumn instead of spring-gray skies, cold wind, everything promising storms. Mildred hadn't slept the night before. Elena had stayed over. The two of them sprawled on Mildred's small couch like they used to do when their mother was sick, when the only comfort was each other. "What do you think he wants?" Elena asked for the 100th time. "I don't know. Money? To tell us he's sick? To say he's getting remarried?" Each possibility felt worse than the last. Maybe he just misses us. "Dad doesn't do sentiment. Not anymore." Mildred checked her phone. Derek had texted 3 times already. "I'm here if you need me. Just say the word. Remember, you're strong enough for whatever this is. I love your strength. I love your courage. Well, I'm getting there." That last text made her smile despite the anxiety gnawing her stomach. They'd been officially together for a week. One perfect, terrifying, beautiful week of morning bakery visits and evening phone calls and stolen kisses when he'd show up at closing time to walk her to her car. 1 week, and she was absolutely falling in love with him. The knock came at 10 a.m. sharp. Sam Martinez was nothing if not punctual. Mildred opened the door to find her father looking older than she remembered. 61 years old, but the years sat heavy on his shoulders. His hair had gone completely grey. His face carried lines that hadn't been there 3 years ago. "Mija," he said, and the familiar endearment nearly broke her. "Hi, Dad." She stepped back, let him in. Elena emerged from the kitchen, and for a moment they were all just standing there, a family that didn't quite know how to be one anymore. Sam looked around the small studio apartment, taking in the thrift store furniture, the modest space, the life his daughter had built from almost nothing. Something flickered across his face. Pride? Regret? Both? "You look good, Mildred. Both of you do." "You look tired," Elena said bluntly. "What's going on, Dad?" Sam sat heavily in the second-hand armchair. "I'm selling the cabin, moving back to Richmond." Silence. Mildred and Elena exchanged glances. "Why?" Mildred asked. "Because I've been hiding for 6 years and I'm tired." Sam's voice cracked. "Because your mother would be ashamed of me. Because I abandoned my daughters when they needed me most. And I don't know if I can fix it, but I need to try." Elena sat on the arm of his chair, her hand on his shoulder. "Dad, let me finish." He looked at Mildred, really looked at her. "I got your Christmas card, the one with the photo of you and Elena at the bakery, and I realized I've never even seen your business, never visited, never asked how you're doing beyond the surface. I've been so buried in my own grief that I forgot I still have living daughters who needed a father." Mildred's throat burned. "You were grieving. We understood. Understanding and accepting are different things." Sam stood, moved to the window. "Your mother and I, we were kids when we got married. I was 19, she was 18. Everyone said we were too young. But Mildred, she was my whole world for 34 years. When she died, I didn't know how to exist without her. So you left us." The words came out harder than Mildred intended. "So I left you." He turned, eyes wet. "And I'm sorry. I'm so damn sorry. I know I can't get those years back, can't undo the damage, but I want to try. I want to be your father again, if you'll let me." Elena was crying. Mildred felt tears on her own cheeks. "I want to see your bakery," Sam continued. "Want to taste whatever magic you're creating. Want to hear about your life, both of you. Want to know who my daughters became, while I was too broken to pay attention." Mildred crossed to him, let him pull her into a hug that smelled like the Old Spice he'd worn her whole life. "I'm scared to hope," she whispered against his shoulder. "Me too, Mija, me too." They went to the bakery together, the 3 of them, and Mildred unlocked the door to her kingdom. Sam walked through slowly, touching the mismatched chairs, reading the menu board, examining the display cases like they were museum pieces. "Your mother would love this," he said finally. "She'd be so proud of you. I used her recipes, all of them, everything she taught me." "Then she's here." Sam's smile was tremulous. "In every bite, in every customer who leaves happier than they came. You didn't just build a business, Mildred. You built a memorial, a living one." Something in Mildred's chest cracked open. All these years, she'd thought she was hiding in the bakery, but maybe she'd been honoring her mother all along. "Can I help?" Sam asked. "I'm not much of a baker, but I can follow directions. If you'll teach me." They spent the afternoon together, Sam learning to make his late wife's cinnamon rolls, Elena documenting everything on her phone, all of them crying and laughing and remembering. It felt like healing. It felt like coming home. At 4 p.m., the bell chimed. Derek walked in, stopped short when he saw the family tableau flour everywhere, Mildred's hands covered in dough, Sam with frosting on his nose, Elena taking photos. "I'm sorry," Derek said immediately. "I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to." "You must be Derek." Sam wiped his hands on a towel, extended one to shake. "Mildred mentioned you." Mildred had mentioned very little, actually. Just that she was seeing someone, that it was new, that she was scared and hopeful in equal measure. "Sir," Derek shook his hand, suddenly formal. "It's good to meet you. Dad, this is Derek Roberts, my boyfriend." The word still felt foreign but right. "Derek, my father, Sam Martinez." Sam's eyes sharpened. "Roberts, as in Roberts Tech Solutions?" "Yes, sir. You're the billionaire my daughter is dating." Not a question. The air in the bakery went tense. Elena stopped taking photos. Mildred stopped breathing. "I'm the man who's falling in love with your daughter," Derek said quietly. "The money is just circumstance." Sam studied him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. "My wife used to say that wealth is what you have, but worth is what you give. What are you giving my daughter, Mr. Roberts?" Derek didn't hesitate. "Everything I have, everything I am, for as long as she'll let me." "And what do you want from her?" "To be better than I was yesterday, to remember what real life feels like, to create things that matter instead of just accumulating things that don't." Derek glanced at Mildred, his expression open and vulnerable. "She makes me want to be the man I gave up being 15 years ago." Sam nodded slowly. "That's a lot of pressure to put on someone. Which is why I'm also in therapy as of Monday," Derek added. "Working through my father's death, my identity crisis, and the question of what I actually want from life. Mildred inspired me to get help. She didn't fix me. She just made me want to fix myself." Mildred's heart was doing acrobatics. He'd started therapy and hadn't told her. "Why didn't you say anything?" she asked. "Because it's my work to do, not yours." Derek stepped closer. "You've spent enough of your life managing other people's emotions. I'm not going to be another man who makes his healing your responsibility." Sam's expression shifted to something like respect. "I like him, Mija. He's smarter than I was at his age." "That's a low bar, Dad," Elena said, but she was smiling. The tension broke. Sam invited Derek to stay, and they all finished the cinnamon rolls together. Watching Derek take direction from her father, seeing them laugh together, witnessing her two worlds collide without exploding, it felt like a gift. As the sun started setting, Sam pulled Mildred aside while Derek and Elena debated the merits of cream cheese versus buttercream frosting. "He's good for you," Sam said. "I can see it in your face. You're lighter, happier, more like the girl you were before Trevor." "I'm terrified, Dad." "Good. That means it matters." He squeezed her shoulder. "Your mother always said the things worth having are the things that scare us most, because they're the things we could lose, and losing them would break us. What if I'm not enough? What if he wakes up one day and realizes—" "Mildred Sophia Martinez." Her father's voice was firm. "You are enough. You have always been enough, and any man lucky enough to love you knows it. The question isn't whether you're enough. The question is whether you're brave enough to let yourself be loved." The words hit like a revelation. All this time, she'd been so focused on whether she deserved love that she'd never asked herself if she was willing to accept it. "I don't know if I am," she whispered. "Then learn." Sam kissed her forehead. "Your mother and I didn't know how to be married when we started. We just knew we wanted to try. Everything else, we figured out along the way." That evening, After Sam and Elena left, Derek stayed to help Mildred clean up. They worked in comfortable silence, the bakery warm and flour-dusted and full of the day's sweetness. "Thank you," Mildred said finally, "for showing up, for being perfect with my father, for starting therapy. Thank you for letting me be part of your family time." Derek dried the last mixing bowl. "And for inspiring me to get help. I called Monday morning, had my first session Wednesday. It's hard, but it's good. What made you decide?" "You did." He set down the towel, turned to face her. "I was sitting in a board meeting Tuesday after our mountain day, and I realized I was living my father's life instead of mine. And I thought about what you said about building toward an exit strategy, about actually living. So I called a therapist my business partner recommended, someone who specializes in grief and life transitions." Mildred moved closer, wrapped her arms around his waist. He held her tight, his chin resting on her head. "I need to tell you something," she said into his chest. "Okay. I'm falling in love with you. Real love. The scary kind. The kind that could destroy me if it ends." She felt him tense, then relax, then hold her even tighter. "I'm already there," he whispered. "Have been since you let me make muffins in your kitchen at 4 in the morning. I'm completely terrifyingly in love with you, Mildred. And I need you to know I'm not going anywhere, even when you're scared, even when you don't believe you deserve this. I'm staying." "Promise?" "I promise." They stood there holding each other as the bakery settled into evening quiet, two broken people learning to be whole together, both terrified and brave, and choosing each other anyway. Mildred's phone buzzed, a text from her father. "Thank you for letting me back in. I love you, Mija. Your mother would be so proud of the woman you've become. I know I am." She showed Derek the text, tears streaming down her face. "That's beautiful," he said, wiping her tears. "Everything feels like it's changing so fast. Like my whole life is shifting and I don't know how to keep up. Then we'll figure it out together." Derek kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "One day at a time. One choice at a time. One brave moment at a time. I'm scared I'll wake up and this will all be a dream. Then I'll show up tomorrow morning at 4 a.m. and prove I'm real." And he did. And the morning after that, and every morning after, until showing up for each other became as natural as breathing, until scared became brave, until broken became healing, until two people learned that love wasn't about being perfect, it was about being present, consistent, and willing to try. But first, they had to survive what came next. Because on Saturday, Patricia Roberts called Derek with an ultimatum that would test everything they'd built. And Mildred would have to decide if she was brave enough to fight for love, or if the fear of not being enough would win after all. Saturday arrived with the kind of sunshine that felt like a lie. Derek had shown up at 4 a.m. as promised, bringing coffee and his beautiful, complicated presents. They'd made sourdough together in comfortable silence, his hands learning the rhythm of kneading, Mildred teaching him to feel when the dough was ready, instead of just following a timer. "It's about trust," she'd said, guiding his hands. "Trusting yourself to know when something's right." He'd kissed her then, flour-dusted and perfect, and whispered, "You're teaching me that too." Now, at 11 a.m., Mildred was restocking display cases when Derek's phone rang. She saw his expression change the moment he looked at the screen. "My mother," he said, voice tight. "I need to take this." He stepped outside, and through the window, Mildred watched his shoulders tense, watched him run his hand through his hair over and over, watched him become the man he was before her, rigid, controlled, performing. When he came back inside, his face was carefully blank. "I need to go." His voice was hollow. "There's a situation with the gala. My mother needs me to handle it." "Okay." Mildred wiped her hands on her apron. "When will I see you?" Derek didn't meet her eyes. "I don't know. The gala's next Saturday. There's a lot to coordinate. I might be tied up all week." Something in Mildred's chest went cold. A whole week? Maybe. Probably. He was already moving toward the door. "I'll call you." He left without kissing her goodbye, without the usual lingering touch, without anything that felt like the man who'd declared his love just 2 days ago. Mildred stood in her empty bakery and felt the familiar shape of abandonment settling over her shoulders. By Tuesday, Derek hadn't called. He texted brief, formal messages about being busy, about family obligations, about needing to focus on gala preparations. Nothing that sounded like him, nothing that felt real. Elena found Mildred crying over a batch of ruined croissants Tuesday night. "He's pulling away," Mildred said, her voice breaking. "Just like I knew he would. He finally saw me clearly and realized I'm not worth the trouble." "Or," Elena said carefully, "something else is going on. Something he's not telling you." "Like what?" "I don't know. But the Derek I met on Thursday doesn't just disappear. Something happened with that phone call. Maybe his mother reminded him who he is, where he comes from, that he's supposed to be with someone elegant and thin and perfect, not a fat baker who hides from mirrors." "Millie, stop." Elena grabbed her sister's hands. "You're spiraling. You're hearing Trevor's voice again instead of Derek's. What did Dad say? Are you brave enough to let yourself be loved? What if being brave just means getting hurt? What if not being brave means losing something real?" Wednesday, Mildred texted Derek, "I miss you. Can we talk?" His response came 3 hours later. "Miss you too. Crazy busy. Soon." Soon. The word tasted like every broken promise she'd ever swallowed. Thursday, Sam called. "How's that boyfriend of yours?" "Busy." Mildred stirred muffin batter with more force than necessary, preparing for his mother's gala. "You sound upset." "I'm fine." "Mija, you're not fine. Talk to me." So she did. She told him everything, the phone call, the distance, the fear that she'd been right all along, that someone like Derek couldn't really want someone like her. Sam was quiet for a long moment. "You know what your mother would say?" "What?" "That love worth having is worth fighting for, and that sometimes the people we love get scared and stupid, and we have to decide if we're going to let them figure it out or walk away. What if I fight and he still chooses his old life? Then you'll know you were brave, and that's worth something too." Friday afternoon, Mildred made a decision. She called Derek. It rang 4 times before he answered. "Mildred, I'm in the middle of... I need to see you." Her voice was steady, stronger than she felt. "Tonight, please." Silence stretched between them. Then, "Okay. My place? 7? Text me the address." She hung up before she could lose her nerve. Derek's house wasn't a house. It was an estate sprawling and modern, and so far removed from her tiny apartment that Mildred almost turned around 3 times before pulling into the circular driveway. He answered the door in casual clothes, jeans, and a soft sweater, looking exhausted and beautiful and wrong, like he was wearing a costume of normalcy. "Hi." His smile didn't reach his eyes. "Hi." Mildred stepped inside, taking in the soaring ceilings, the expensive art, the vast emptiness of a space too big for one person. "Nice house." "It's my father's house. I just live in it." He gestured toward the living room. "Can I get you something? Wine? Water?" "Answers." Mildred stayed standing. "I need you to tell me what's going on. Because this..." She gestured between them. "This isn't us. You've been different since Saturday. Distant. And I need to know if you're pulling away because you want to, or because something's forcing you to." Derek's expression cracked. "Mildred. Because if you want out, just say it. Don't torture me with slow distance. Don't make me wonder if I'm crazy for thinking what we had was real. Just be honest." "It's not that simple." "Then make it simple." Her voice shook. "Do you still want this? Want me?" "God, yes." The words burst out of him. "Every second of every day. You're all I think about. All I want." "Then why does it feel like you're already gone?" Derek sank onto the couch, buried his face in his hands. "Because my mother gave me an ultimatum." Mildred's stomach dropped. "What kind of ultimatum?" "Saturday, when she called. The gala isn't just a gala, it's a merger announcement. Roberts Tech is joining with another company, a deal my father set up before he died. The CEO's daughter, Victoria, is supposed to be my date. My mother's been planning it for months. And when I told her I was bringing you instead, He looked up, eyes red. She threatened to sabotage the merger, to destroy years of work, to dismantle my father's legacy if I don't play my part. Mildred felt like she'd been punched. "And what's your part?" "Show up with Victoria, smile for the cameras, let everyone assume we're together, preserve the image of the perfect CEO with the perfect match." His voice was bitter. "She said you'd be an embarrassment, that you're not the kind of woman who belongs in our world. that if I really loved you, I'd protect you from the humiliation of being judged by people like her. The words landed like blows. Embarrassment. Not the kind of woman. Humiliation. Everything Trevor had ever said, everything Mildred had always believed about herself, confirmed by a woman who'd never even met her. So that's it then, Mildred's voice was hollow. You're choosing the gala, the image, your mother's approval. No. Derek stood, crossed to her. I'm choosing you. I told her to go to hell, told her the merger could burn for all I cared, that I love you and I'm bringing you to the gala, and she can either accept it or disinherit me. Mildred's breath caught. You what? I chose you, Mildred. The second she gave me that ultimatum, I chose you. But then I panicked because what if I'm dragging you into something terrible? What if she's right and you'll be judged and hurt and I'm being selfish wanting you there? So you pulled away. So I pulled away. He cupped her face in his hands. And I've been miserable, and I'm so sorry. I should have told you immediately. Should have let you make the choice instead of making it for you. Should have trusted you to know what you can handle. Mildred's mind was racing. He'd chosen her, had stood up to his mother, had risked everything, for her, but now she had to choose too. I'm terrified, she whispered, of being judged by people like your mother, of being the fat girlfriend who doesn't fit, of proving everyone right who ever said I wasn't enough. I know, and if you say no, I'll understand. We'll skip the gala. I'll deal with my mother and the merger and all of it. But Mildred, I need you to know you are enough. You're more than enough, and anyone who can't see that is blind. Mildred thought about her father's words, about her mother's wisdom, about the woman she'd been 4 years ago, so beaten down by Trevor that she'd forgotten how to stand up, and about the woman she was becoming, the one who'd built a business from grief, who'd let herself fall in love despite the fear, who'd looked in a mirror and didn't immediately look away. I'm going with you, she said. You don't have to. I'm going with you, she repeated, stronger, because I'm done letting other people's opinions make me small. I'm done hiding, and I'm done letting fear win. Derek's smile was like sunrise. You're sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. She pulled him close. We do this together, and if your mother wants to judge me, let her. I know who I am, and I know you love me exactly as I am. I do. He kissed her, deep and desperate and full of relief. God, I do. I love you so much. I love you too. Mildred kissed him back, pouring everything into it, her fear and her courage and her choice to be brave. Now take me dress shopping, because I'm going to need something spectacular to wear while I crash your mother's perfect evening. The week leading up to the gala was a whirlwind. Elena helped Mildred find a dress, a deep emerald green that hugged every curve and made her feel powerful instead of ashamed. Sam called daily with pep talks. Derek showed up every morning at 4 a.m., sometimes to bake, sometimes just to hold her. What if I freeze up? Mildred asked the night before the gala. What if I can't handle it? Then we leave. Derek was absolute. The second you want out, we're gone. My mother, the merger, all of it, none of it matters more than you. Saturday evening, Derek picked her up in a sleek car, wearing a tuxedo that made him look like every fantasy Mildred had never let herself have. When he saw her in the emerald dress, his expression made every moment of doubt worth it. You're the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, he said, voice rough with emotion. Even compared to Victoria, perfect match. Especially compared to her, he kissed her hand. Ready to scandalize high society? Let's go crash a gala. The venue was everything Mildred expected, glittering and expensive, and full of people who looked like they'd never worried about money or mirrors. Derek kept his hand on her lower back, steady and reassuring, as they entered. Patricia Roberts spotted them immediately. She was elegant and cold, her eyes sweeping over Mildred with undisguised disdain. Derek, she said, voice like ice, and this must be your friend. My girlfriend, Derek corrected, voice firm. Mildred Martinez, the woman I'm in love with. The silence around them was deafening. Patricia's expression could have frozen fire. I see. Her tone said everything about what she thought of what she saw. How unexpected. Before Mildred could respond, a voice cut through the tension. Patricia Roberts, as cold as ever. Sam Martinez emerged from the crowd, wearing a suit Mildred had never seen, looking distinguished and protective, still judging people by their bank accounts instead of their character. Patricia blinked. "Do I know you?" "Sam Martinez. We met 30 years ago at a fundraiser. You told my wife she had a charming little business and tried to buy her recipes for pennies." He smiled sharp. "She told you to go to hell. I see some things never change." Mildred's heart swelled. Her father had come, had shown up to support her. "Dad," she whispered, "you're here. Wouldn't miss it, mija." He kissed her forehead. "Your mother would have loved seeing you in this dress, standing tall, choosing love even when it's scary." Elena appeared next, wearing a stunning red dress. "Sorry we're late. Traffic was insane. Mildred, you look amazing." Suddenly, Mildred wasn't alone in a room full of strangers. She was surrounded by family, by people who loved her, by proof that she belonged anywhere she chose to be. Patricia's expression shifted from disdain to something like uncertainty. She'd expected Mildred to crumble, to prove she didn't belong. Instead, Mildred stood taller, held Derek's hand tighter, and smiled. "It's lovely to meet you, Mrs. Roberts," she said, voice steady. "Derek's told me so much about you. I hope we can get to know each other. I'm not going anywhere." The evening unfolded like a dream. Derek introduced Mildred to everyone as the woman he loved. They danced together, his arms around her, whispering that she was perfect. Sam charmed half the room with stories about his late wife's bakery dreams. Elena documented everything. And Patricia Roberts watched it all with an expression that slowly shifted from ice to something almost like respect. Near the end of the night, she approached Mildred alone. "You're braver than I expected," Patricia said. "I'm more terrified than you know," Mildred replied honestly. "But I love your son, and he loves me. That's worth being brave for." Patricia studied her for a long moment. "My husband loved me once, the way Derek looks at you, but I traded real love for perfect appearances, pushed away anything that didn't fit the image. And I've been lonely for 30 years. Her voice cracked. "Don't let anyone make you do the same." It wasn't an apology, but it was something. At midnight, Derek pulled Mildred onto a balcony overlooking the city. The party continued inside, but out here it was just them and the stars. "I have something to ask you," he said, voice nervous. Mildred's heart kicked. "Okay. I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other a month. But Mildred, you've changed my entire life. You've made me want to be better, to live instead of just exist, to build something real instead of just maintaining something hollow." He pulled a small box from his pocket, dropped to one knee. "I want to wake up every morning and make bread with you. I want to figure out who I am outside my father's legacy, with you beside me. I want to spend the rest of my life proving that you deserve every beautiful thing." He opened the box. The ring inside was simple and stunning, a green stone the color of her dress. "Mildred Sophia Martinez, will you marry me?" Mildred looked at this man kneeling before her, this beautiful, broken, brave man who'd chosen her over everything, who'd stood up to his mother, who'd shown up every morning at 4 a.m., who'd loved her exactly as she was. And she thought about the woman she'd been a month ago, hiding in her bakery, believing she didn't deserve love, convinced her body made her unworthy. And the woman she was now, still scared, still imperfect, but brave enough to choose love anyway. "Yes," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, I'll marry you." He slipped the ring on her finger, stood, and kissed her like she was air and he was drowning. Inside, the party erupted in applause. Apparently they'd had an audience. Sam appeared, tears in his eyes, pulling them both into a hug. "Your mother is dancing in heaven, mija. I know she is." Elena was sobbing, taking photos, already planning the wedding. Even Patricia Roberts smiled, small and tentative, but real. 6 months later, the bakery had a new name, Millie and Mom's, with a photo of Mildred and her mother on the sign. Derek had stepped down as CEO of Roberts Tech, transitioning leadership to his business partner James. Now he taught math at the local high school 3 days a week and spent the other 2 helping Mildred run the bakery. They'd bought a house together, not a mansion, just a home, with a kitchen big enough for both of them to bake in and a yard for the future they were building. Sam had moved to Richmond, visited every Sunday, and slowly became the father he'd forgotten how to be. Patricia still called with demands, but Derek had learned to say no, and slowly Painfully, she was learning to respect his choices. On a Tuesday morning in November, Mildred stood in front of her full-length mirror in a wedding dress. She looked at her reflection, really looked, and for the first time in years, she saw someone beautiful. Not despite her body, because of everything she was. "Ready, Mija?" Sam stood in the doorway, handsome in his suit. "So ready, Dad." They walked into the small garden behind the bakery where Derek waited, tears already streaming down his face. Elena stood beside him as best woman. Friends and family filled mismatched chairs. And when Mildred reached Derek, when he took her hands and whispered, "You're the most beautiful bride I've ever seen," she believed him, because she'd learned that love wasn't about being perfect. It was about being brave enough to let yourself be seen, brave enough to fight for what you deserve, brave enough to believe that you are worthy, exactly as you are. They said their vows surrounded by the smell of cinnamon and the people who loved them. And they lived, not perfectly, not without struggles, but wholly, truly, together. Two broken people who learned that sometimes the most beautiful things are built from broken pieces, held together by love and courage and the daily choice to show up for each other. Every morning at 4 a.m. For the rest of their lives. Thank you for staying with this story till the end. If you enjoyed it, the next one will completely pull you in. It's even more surprising and emotional than this. So don't miss it. Tap the video on your screen and continue the journey.